story. Next story, we're going to be speaking to Brother Ahmed Hussein, no stranger to Friday Night Live from MPACUK. UK. Great to have the Brother Ahmed Hussein back with us. It's actually a story which I've kind of missed, right? So the producers brought it to my attention. Can Muslim parents protest on behalf of their school children? Now, if you ask me that question, I think, why not? Right? So why are we asking this question in the first place? But I'm sure there's some context to this. And I'm sure Brother Ahmed Hussein is going to explain to us what is the background to this. I think it involves something to do with Bali and some of the parents that were protesting in Bali outside the school some time back with regards to a school teacher who, for the better, want of a better word, made a massive error in judgment to show a school, to show a class full of Muslim children the blasphemous pictures of obviously disrespecting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that were depicted in one of those infamous magazine publications in France, right? And as a result, I think the parents were protesting, and then that kind of caught in national media attention. So there was this interview, I think, where Brother Ahmed Hussein was involved in over the question of, can Muslim parents protest on behalf of their school children? I don't know why we're asking that question. I thought this country is a beacon of freedom and free speech. So why are we asking this question for? Brother Ahmed Hussein, Assalamu alaikum. Tell us about this story, Akhi. What is it all about?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly, bro.
Okay, phew, sorry, I had technical issues last time. So yeah, as you said, a couple of years ago, there was a teacher who really riled up the Muslim parents in his local community because he did a lesson on blasphemy, and he showed a very provocative image, the infamous Charlie Hebdo image of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is really interesting, like, in terms of the focus being on one teacher who remains in hiding. Of course, no one condones a teacher being afraid for their life, etc., etc. But what gets ignored is the parents, is the children themselves. And the school's investigation into what happened was that it wasn't the first or even the second. It was at least the third time that this same image had been shown to a classroom of Muslim kids. And these kids obviously were afraid of complaining to the school authorities because of prevent.
In that school?
Pardon? Yeah. So the school did an independent investigation after the parents made a fuss on behalf of their kids. They could have done it before, but of course there wasn't enough pressure on them. So the parents, on behalf of their children, had to make some kind of a noise. And the school said, oh, by the way, the same image had been shown multiple times in the past. We didn't need to show this image, and we're going to be vetting, we should have been vetting the images and so on. So the real question is, like, the parents, what else were they supposed to do? Of course they were going to protest outside the gates. If they had tried...
Why is this? It looks like we've got a bit of a lag here between what you're telling me on audio and the video that I can see. But anyway, so why is this a question? Why is this a controversial question of, can parents protest on behalf of their children? I mean, you're living in a democracy, so-called democracy. You're living in a society that purports to be, based upon, civil liberties and freedom of expression, etc. It's always obviously, in the case of Gary Lineker, obviously it's not applicable. But why is this an issue then?
It's really interesting that you mentioned Gary Lineker, but keeping it focused on the Muslims, the really obvious point is here it comes down to red lines. What Islamophobes refuse to understand is that every culture has their red lines. So for the Muslims, for us, obviously it's the honor and the dignity of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for non-Muslims, for Brits in the UK, a really easy way for them to understand the red line is how the whole country's media went crazy when Meghan Markle and Harry criticized the royal family. Suddenly, there were all sorts of craziness, madness in the media, in the newspapers, and that incited plenty of people to say plenty of crazy things about Meghan Markle and Harry. So what Islamophobes should remember, and we Muslims need to be the ones who tell them, every culture has its red lines. Every community, every group of people who feels like we're part of this group, we're not part of that group. It's just human psychology. We have our red lines.
Yeah.
That's what makes us a community. So the really important point. Sorry, you go ahead, and then I'll.
No, fine. What I was going to say, we can see the red lines at the moment in the media all over when it comes to British politics. But anyway, going back to the point, I mean, just the fact that Muslim parents or any parents, whether they're Christian parents, Jewish parents, the fact that they have to protest outside the school, the schools, shows to me that there's firstly sounds like it's a last resort. It also shows the fact that communication has broken down. It also shows or suggests to me that all other means of engagement, and there should be a very cordial and a cooperative relationship between an institution like a school and parents. So, I mean, it looks like all of those avenues have completely collapsed and broken down, and therefore the parents have to take this to a final result, which is protesting outside, just like the RMG or the other institutions and organizations are protesting when everything else is broken down, and therefore they have to take it to the streets and protest and go on civil strife.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, when parents are pushed to protest, we're pushed to communicate. We do have to be very clear with our communication. Otherwise, the Islamophobes, the right-wing media, they take the words out of our mouths and then shape it into their own narrative. And the narrative, you've probably seen this a lot, brother. The narrative that's usually put on top of Muslims is that Muslims want special treatment for their Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They want blasphemy laws. They want special treatment, etc., etc. But no, the reason it stings so much for Muslims, it stings so much for us twice. Once because our red line is being crossed. And secondly, when we try to cross their red lines, we're pushed back. What are their red lines? When I say there, I mean the British establishment. Look at what's happening to Gary Lineker. Look at anyone who criticizes Israel. Look at anyone who talks about Palestine.
Absolutely.
Look at any imam who gives a khutbah and uses the word jihad, uses the word khilafah. The British establishment has its own red lines. When we Muslims cross those red lines, they not only push back and silence us, they arrest us, they label us as extremists and so on. So when it comes to any kind of conversation around Muslims, our sensitivities, our red lines, our special treatment, we don't want special treatment. We want the same freedom of speech that every other British citizen wants. In fact, we've got a lot more to say than the British establishment wants to hear.
All right. On that note, Brother Ahmed Hussein, unfortunately, we've run out of time and we're about to go into commercial break from MPACUK UK. Jazakallah khair for joining us and giving us your time on this Friday evening once again. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Always a pleasure.